Welcome to the Get Wealth Show, where we uncover the secrets to building real wealth through real estate from the people who have actually done it. Each episode gives you proven strategies, modern market insight, and actionable steps you can use today to build wealth through real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Michael Hoang.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Michael Hoang, here with my friend, David Pupo. David, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. What about you, Mike?
I'm living the dream, man. So David and I got to meet each other at a conference in Florida recently we were at, and I said, brother, I love what you're doing. You got something interesting and new you're getting into. I was like, come on the podcast and talk all about it, man. So I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, well, thank you for the invite. Absolutely, thank you for the invite. Probably a good time to now leave Orlando because it is now scorching hot. So good time to leave.
It was wonderfully mild when we were there. Me and my wife went swimming in some spring. There's some natural springs north of Orlando. We had a great time out there. So I guess we snuck in just underneath the peak of summer.
Yeah.
But before we jump into what you're working on now, man, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How you got started in real estate?
Yeah, of course. It's fun, man. It's always good to be able to look back on some things. So I actually came up here to Orlando originally from Fort Lauderdale, and I went to the college that's here. It's University of Central Florida, and literally did not know anything about real estate investing before going to University of Central Florida. I knew about real estate. I've had family in almost every aspect of it. My mom used to run a title company. My aunt was a really successful agent and investor. We had cousins that were mortgage loan originators, but I also saw the demise of it because I lived in South Florida during the recession time. And when that was hitting, we saw the other side of real estate too with that. So once again, it wasn't even on my mind at that time going to college. And so I had a couple of internships throughout college, got my corporate job. Everybody's been telling me I needed to get. And I absolutely hated it. I used to be a corporate recruiter. I used to go find engineers for government contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, or the theme parks here, obviously in Orlando. They need engineers all the time. And I counted the hours back then. Now if somebody's like, hey, how many hours do you work? I'd be like, as much as I need to and as much as I don't want to. It's kind of, it ebbs and flows, right? Then I would tell you, I worked like 60 hours a week, and it was the longest 60 hours of my life. I hated it. And me and my now wife at that time, girlfriend, almost broke up. I'd come home like a vegetable, just go on the couch, eat dinner, not want to talk, go to bed, wake up, and like repeat that cycle. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. How did I get to finding real estate investments? Family was a really big influence. And then what I like to call them here in Orlando is because Orlando, like Houston, is a hub for real estate, and especially the gurus that go through there. We had one of the, I'm not going to say the exact program, but I call them the carnival, one of the real estate carnivals. They come in for the weekend and they leave right after that. That sold a course. It was about flipping houses, but I found out quickly it was about really wholesaling. And at that time, pretty broke, right? Still out of college. And I put a lot of money that I did not have. And I was like, come hell or high fire or hell water, I'm going to make sure that this works. So I tried doing that on the side at my corporate job. And like, I remember the straw that broke the camel's back for me is still, I couldn't take calls because I was always making calls during the day. And I sent out a whole bunch of mailers, a lot of money, once again, that I did not have. And I missed out on, and I had something under contract, but I couldn't have time to get the buyers out to the property at that time. And this was in Orlando, one of my first properties I ever got under contract. And it was supposed to be like a $20,000 assignment fee. And people wanted it. I had no time to pick up a phone call. And I didn't know about operations. I didn't know about systems. I didn't know about anything. And so I had to cancel on the agreement. And I remember to this day thinking to myself, man, that was like a third of what I made in a year. And that was one deal. And I was like, Do I think if I spent 3 months at third, being or 3 or 4 months trying to do this, that I couldn't try replicating what I did part time? And my thought, absolutely, I could. And so I saved up about 3 or 4 months of money of my expenses. Luckily enough, they were low at that time, and I jumped in. I quit my corporate job. I joined a local wholesaling brokerage here, and dude, just I hit the ground running. When you joined like this wholesale brokerage, you immediately went into dispositions. They had properties that they already had for you ready to kind of go. They had acquisitions team and a dispositions team. So I naturally did really well. I came into my routines, did really well with it, jumped into acquisitions and dispositions, then started running the wholesale operation. And then at the end of the day, I was only getting 50% of whatever I did. And I was like, I don't think this quite makes sense. So ventured out into my own after that.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah. So your first deal, you found it with direct mail?
Yeah, first property. My first deal was through the wholesale brokerage. That one, they had something in an area near like the theme parks. It's called Tangelo Park. Um, and that was a property that somebody already had. And my job was to go sell it. So that's what I did, right? So at that time, there wasn't like crazy amount of PPC or a prop stream or a prop wire. All of those companies, they were non-existent at that time. Where you got your buyers, especially your local buyers, were from Bandit signs. And I will put the legal disclaimer here for everybody. Check with your local city and county ordinances for Bandit signs. I will just leave it at that, right? That's my legal disclaimer. However, in this area, you could do it. And that's how I found my first couple of buyers in that area of Tangelo Park. And I just kept on doing more deals in that little area of Tangelo Park. There were these block 1950 style houses that flippers love. And I kept on selling them. So kept on finding the right buyers and kept on selling them.
Yeah. Bandit signs are getting harder and harder to put out legally. In most cities, you're not allowed to put them out. They'll throw them away. I know somebody who was putting out bandit signs and they got a phone call from someone wanting to sell a home, and they arrive and it was actually like a city inspector and someone from the city with a pile of his signs, and they wrote him a ticket and said, throw these signs away, by the way. And they collected like 20 or 30 of his signs. Other cities are more friendly to them. I also heard that
That's really not that bad. That's getting away with just a little slap on the wrist. That's good.
Oh yeah, what's the severe punishment? What's on the other side of the spectrum?
Well, you can get the ones that are dicks. There'll be dickheads, and like they'll put you on like a robo caller or like submit your phone number to like spam websites and stuff like that. And so your phone is just getting hit nonstop by spam and phishing calls, or like a faxing number like that. You know that noise that when you hit a fax line, it just makes that high screeching noise. You get that. You definitely can get tickets. Tickets are usually the easiest. Sometimes, though, the tickets could be from law enforcement, because some places here, like, code enforcement is like city dependent on who runs it. Like it changes. Like in a place like an area outside of Orlando called Apopka, like code enforcement kind of falls underneath, I don't know why, law enforcement. So like you have like community service officers that do code enforcement stuff. And so that happened one time too. Nothing ever too crazy serious, but follow the law.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Know your local laws. However, with changes in regulation that has happened in recent years with cold calling, text blasting, and bandit signs, this is why I prefer to. I really, really like using third-party lead generation now. I've done a lot of direct mail. I still think direct mail is great. The rules will never change, like what you can do with direct mail, because you're not soliciting, you're asking to buy something. But if I'm going to do cold calling, text blasting, I'm always going to use a third-party provider like a PPL, PPC situation. Let them figure out how to comply with the laws and then serve you up the hot leads. But I love that. And so your first deal, someone else found it. You worked for a dispo house and or a wholesaling brokerage, and then you would find the end buyers, the people who would usually go out and flip that house. So that's a really interesting way to get started. Did they make you get licensed as a real estate agent?
Yes. Yeah, we did do that. Is it needed? No. But for us at that time, we utilized the MLS a lot. And the only way to have, of course, the MLS is to be a licensed agent. So it made it easier. And then, of course, with acquisitions, then you're better with comping and stuff like that. We've always kind of had our MLS to be like our source of comping. Can you do it through every other website, like a PropWire, like a Zillow, of course you can. Like, I'm not saying that you can't come up with a pretty good conclusion. However, I still think that there's a lot of really solid data within the MLS. And so we still always use that as our primary comping tool.
Yeah, there's some big ones here in Houston. New Western is the one that's most well known, and all their people are licensed as agents for a lot of reasons. But usually, when you go work for these big dispo houses, they're going to require you to go get licensed. However, you do not need to be licensed to be a real estate investor. I got to tell people this over and over when I'm talking to new people. One of the first couple questions they have is, "Oh man, I want to become a real estate investor, but I just don't have time to go get my license." And I can tell you that I real estate retired myself before I was a licensed agent. You absolutely do not need your license. To anybody listening, please do not think you need your license to start investing. But if you want to work for a wholesale brokerage, most likely they're going to require you to get licensed.
And we're recording this in May of 2025, right? So we are going to see more things come out, as they have already shown with wholesaling. Wholesaling, when I started versus where it's at now, are completely different. A lot of different states have been putting in a lot more red tape, a lot more, like as you mentioned, trying to be licensed to be able to do it. And I think it's very, very, very important. Once again, if you want to do this, understand how to play by the game. The rules of the game are very simple in a lot of different ways. It's when we try taking the shortcuts that things often go wrong.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to wholesale, there's a good chance in the near future you'll need to be licensed, or you'll need to comply with some kind of rule or partner with someone who is licensed. Depends on what state you're in, know your options. But in the states where I've seen regulation come into effect, North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, Pennsylvania, almost all of those rules don't impact you if you are closing on the property yourself, taking it in your name and reselling it, or if you're closing on the property yourself because you intend to flip it or turn it into a rental or move into it as your own property, mostly affecting wholesaling. So it depends on what strategy if there's certain real estate strategies that you're doing, you won't have to worry about these about this kind of regulation. But so that was, what was that, 2016, 2017 when you started doing all that stuff?
Yep.
Okay, so tell us what your business looks like today.
So we actually just recently retired the wholesale operation. We stopped really flipping houses in probably the end of 2024. Since then, like I said, we shut down the wholesale operation and we actually started moving into manufactured housing. It wasn't an easy decision to make that. However, if you're going to stay in real estate, and just like any other business or industry, realize what the trends are. And there was a certain point here, and I'm sure places like Houston are very similar to Orlando, in that the middle class is getting absolutely destroyed right now. Interest rates are high. Affordability is very low. Costs are still high. There's just a lot of different arrows going in the directions you don't want when you're in a place doing wholesaling or flipping right now, especially in Florida. Florida is a very, very, easy market to target because it got the hottest and now it's getting the coldest, right? I've always thought about things as like a pendulum swings. It went very high this way, so it's going to naturally go back the other way. And here we are, right? It's now come back the other way. So we picked manufactured housing for the affordability factor, and it's been a phenomenal avenue for us so far.
Yeah, affordability is the name of the game going forward. I know some people that are doing co-living and pad split because of affordability, and I was really excited when I met you at the coaching at the mastermind in Orlando, and you were talking about these manufactured homes and how you're buying land and putting manufactured homes on it, I was so thrilled to hear that these things qualify for an FHA mortgage. And so you guys are providing affordable housing, because I know some people that are doing stuff with land and they're subdividing it and they're building on it, but they're building like big luxury houses an hour,
Yeah.
2 hours outside of a major city. And that serves a certain demographic. But I was really excited to hear that you have a land strategy where you're actually creating affordable housing for people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it's super important to know that those kind of things, because very similar to here. If you're a smaller developer, the big developers are getting money at much lower rates than a lot of other people. They're the ones that can roll out the programs and say, "Hey, we're willing to even finance the property to you at 5% or 5.5% or something like that." When right now everybody's at between 7 and 8, right? Small developers don't have those kind of affordabilities. So it's very critical to understand where did we want to serve was really, really important. The affordability area, I was reading something just literally yesterday that was saying, like, nationwide, most Americans, about 60% of Americans, can't afford a house around $300,000. Well, guess where my affordability and my manufactured housing is? $300,000 and under. So it literally hits on exactly where it was just a perfect situation where I was like, there you go. It's awesome. It's awesome to kind of see the trends, identify it, and move with them.
Are you ready to get started on your real estate investing journey? Well, we put together free resources to help you get started. Check the link in the description.
I love that. I love that you found a way to provide affordable housing. Yeah, 300,000. Is that for the nation or is that for the state of Florida?
It was for the nation. Yeah,
that's for the nation.
Nearly 60% of Americans.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before the show began, and we were talking about parenting and doing real estate at the same time. I'm a little jealous of you, David, because I learned that you're kind of sort of a new father. And I don't have kids yet. Me and my wife want to try. We don't even know, like, God willing, we can have kids. We don't have any medical issues or anything, but we've never even tried. So we don't even know if we can have kids, and we want to try soon. And, my wife's not even pregnant yet. And all we can think about is, like, one, how do we, produce good members of society? But two, how do we involve our kids in a business without, like, forcing them to hate it or thinking they have to do it or driving them away from it? And so I'm interested to get your thoughts. You're kind of a new father, so you're not really there yet. But any advice you can give me and my wife on parenthood would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So my son at the time of this recording is 8 months, and he's at a super fun age. Very, very animated right now. What is great advice for people here? Understanding one thing very simple is that this is like a roller coaster ride. It is not always going to be highs, and it's not always going to be lows, right? When they get sick, they're sick for a week, and then they're going to have a phenomenal week, and then they're going to be sick for another week, and then it's going to be another, and so, like, you understand that, like, you got to take the goods with the goods, enjoy them while you can, because they don't last. And then when the bads happen, well, good news is that they don't last either. So I know a lot of people get caught up in, like, you don't really get a lot of sleep, which I can't say that doesn't happen. You don't. That does happen for sure. So just understand that things happen. Baby's going to get sick. Baby's going to need to go to the doctor. Baby's need to do this. But there's so many things in between that you can help out with, right? Building a time frame and, like, a discipline of, like, a schedule is probably the most important thing I learned so far. And a third one is you and your significant other need to be on the same page on a lot of different things. Like, there's tiers and stages to relationships, like your boyfriend and girlfriend, or you're just starting to date, you move in, engagement, wedding, and then, like, parenthood. Like, that's another tier. And, like, what you believe about each other is going to get tested. So communication is super, super duper important. United Front is very important to me and my wife. And both people following that strict routine is very important as well. That's how you also develop trust with each other. You never want to be in a situation where you're like, well, I don't really trust them with the baby, right? Like, for me, it's very simple. I go to my wife, hey, if you want to go hang out with your friends for a couple hours, go ahead. I got this. Like, it's not even a thought, right? So it's really important to do that.
Yeah. Man, there's so much to unpack there. So is your son, is he, would you consider him sleep trained at this point? Is his sleep starting to regulate?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he knows our routine very well. He's down between 7 and 8 p.m. every night. No matter what. We've left parties, dinners, anything to get back home by like about 6:30, have him start winding down, have him have the bottle, and then go into the sleep routine. Like, we don't care. We follow the routine first. It is first.
Yeah, a very good friend of ours. He now has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, but we were, involved with them a lot when their two sons were young. And that was one thing I learned to respect is like whenever they're coming up on the end of their routine, they have got to go, because once they got their kids out of that cycle of sleep training, it was like took weeks or whatever to get them back in that. So that's one thing that we learned is like, hey, when we have a kid, once that routine is established, you got to do everything you can to stick with it. So like I have a newfound respect for parents of young children when I'm just asking them like, hey, do you need to go? Like, when does your kid go to sleep? When does your kid wake up? When does your kid take a nap? Like, don't answer my phone calls. Don't worry about my invitations to social events. Please respect that. So how long did the question everyone wants to hear, how long did it take for you guys to get sort of normal sleep? Or are you even there yet? Are you even there yet?
Kind of, yeah. I'd say for the most part. I mean, there's a couple days always here and there now, but it's not nearly as consistent. I think once our son could start actually having like neck strength and neck support, I slept a little bit easier because then I actually like had like a thought in the back that like he can at least move. Like, because when they're so little, like you have them in the bassinet and like they're little. Like you have them in these little. They're wrapped up. They look like a little burrito, and like they don't really move that much. But they can scream. They don't know what they don't know, right? They just know a couple things. So the first couple of months are brutal. There ain't no other way of saying it. But like about 3 or 4 months, that's when like the routine started really taking into effect.
It's 3 or 4 months. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. I just assumed it's like almost 1 year of onslaught to your sleep schedule.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, that definitely happens. But like I said, like for example, Sunday, like we're recording this on a Wednesday, Sunday and Monday, I barely got any sleep. But Tuesday, like I got like 9 hours of sleep, which doesn't happen too often. I feel like a new man on a Wednesday.
Awesome. Well, we're going to start moving to the last segment of the show here. So I talk to a lot of real estate investors and entrepreneurs, and I've learned there's like this trend of what it takes to change the course of your life. I like to think of our life course like we're a large ship in the ocean, and everybody's rowing, and these ships move very slow. They turn very slow. And so I found that there's usually a book is what changed people's course that either got them into real estate or once they were in real estate, changed the course of how they operate their business. And so I'll ask every guest in every episode, what book was most impactful for you?
So I'm like a serial reader. I read a lot of things. I could go as far as saying like religion with like the Bible. I can go as far as saying things like the Go-Giver, like change my aspect of abundance versus scarcity. Rich Dad, Poor Dad did good stuff for me, but I get why everybody says that that's the book that changed their life. It's not the book that changed my life, but I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's very sound principles with it. Think and Grow Rich, I think, is also a phenomenal book. That one is on one of my repeats. I listen to that one or read that one annually. I'd say like the last 2 books, because a lot of people don't talk about this side. And I think now being a parent, I'll talk about one of them and then the second one. Nobody really talks about this other side of like entrepreneurship. We get fed in this guru rich environment that we are in. Sales, 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 obsession, 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 10x, 10x, 5x, 10x, 5x, 10x, whatever their X's are. I get it. It is good. It is great to rally the troops with. I think sales is absolutely necessary in any kind of entrepreneurship. There is literally no entrepreneurship without sales. I think, though, to read another book like the one I'm going to say is Rigging the Game. Rigging the Game, for people who are just so like, I like to think about it as shield and sword. Sales, very sword, right? Your offense. But like, we got to think about shield too. And what Rigging the Game does is it makes you make better decisions. It allows you to think things through a little bit better. We are so like used to, like, let's be realistic. Entrepreneurship is a glorified casino. We're talking about what the success rates are of entrepreneurships, right? Like everybody knows like the restaurant one is like 90% failure within 5 years. And like that's a casino, guys, right? Like we are glorified in gambling. So like books like Rigging the Game help you at least put more things in your favor to think things through. So I would highly suggest if somebody's like very, very sword oriented, like be open enough to think shield as well. Because yes, the sword is very important, but you need to defend yourself as well on a couple of things. So Rigging the Game has been one of my favorites for like the last 2 to 3 years to suggest to people because everybody thinks that one way. The other book is the 38 letters that John D. Rockefeller wrote to his son, John Rockefeller. And you want to talk about timeless principles. I just mentioned Think and Grow Rich. That book is like almost, was it from 1930s or 40s? So it's nearly 100 years old. Well, how about I tell you that Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill is based off of things from a person like John D. Rockefeller, who was the richest person in the world. And you get to read these letters that he wrote to his son from like, it's crazy. Like in some of the letters, he references people like Henry Ford. He references people like Abraham Lincoln. He references people like Andrew Carnegie. So like you have huge historic figures. Vanderbilt was a huge one in that book too. So like the 1890s, the early 1900s, like it's over 100 years old. And this man had timeless principles. You get Napoleon Hill's book from this kind of knowledge. So I think that one's a really good one. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but I think that's a highly, highly recommended one right now for me.
Yeah, I love that. I told you I haven't finished 38 letters, and you were like, how could you not put that down?
Yeah.
Or how do you put that
it's
down?
Like it's so great that it's only like 5 pages a day. It's so easy to just crank it out really quickly. So my challenge to you, Mike, is to pick that one back up.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I've been reading 8 pages a day every morning of the book by my nightstand. As soon as I wake up in the morning, as soon as the light touches my eyes, I've been doing that. So I'll put 38 letters in as a rotation for the next one to do that, especially since it's such small digestible chunks inside that book.
Exactly.
Okay, so you talked about the Go-Giver. We're big believers in the Go-Giver here. I tell everybody on every episode, when you were born, your parents had to give to you long before you were capable of giving back. And if you believe that you're going to hold firewood in your hand and say, look at the fireplace and say, give me warmth first, and then I'll give you this wood, it's going to be a very cold winter. So I ask every guest in every episode, what can you give the audience today?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So when I was first starting to do this land transition, I was like in the latter of 2024. We built out a due diligence sheet, and I had talked to a couple of people who I know that are really good in land, but we made it, I think, in my preference and recommendation, a little bit better. So I would say that we can help out with that. We can help out with a due diligence sheet that It's only about like a page and a half, but I'll tell you what, it'll help you out very quickly if you're going into the land world, how to quickly identify things and understand the differences between like, I get this part. Everybody's gonna understand the difference between like a gravel road and like an asphalt road. Like I get that, right? I hope everybody would understand that, right? But there's going to be a lot more key differences in when you look at due diligence for land in secondary and tertiary markets that it'll help out a whole bunch.
All right, awesome. So a land due diligence sheet, and how can everyone get their hands on that?
Yeah, just if you guys want to find me on like Instagram, that's usually probably the easiest way, or Facebook. If you want to DM me the word land DD or something like land like that, I'll understand the reference and I'll provide it to you guys for free. It's not a problem at all.
All right, and your Facebook is just David Pupo, or what do we do?
That's it, just David Pupo, and then Instagram is at Dollars with David.
Dollars with David, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. I'm only following you on Facebook. I got to go find your Instagram now. That is a hot name. I love that.
I like it.
And then what can the audience give you today?
Yeah, really right now, we're just trying to buy a lot of more land for the manufactured housing operation. So the goal for 2025 is to be able to buy 40 land deals, whether it has an old mobile home or manufactured home on it, or it's just raw land that is, in the zoning, in the usage for manufactured housing. So what we found out with manufactured housing is that it not only has to have the right zoning, but it has to have also the right usage. So it is important to be able to find that. But if you are finding deals in Florida, please find us. And I'll the website that you can send your deals to if you want us to look at them and purchase them is www.myobhomes.com/deal. We're at right now in May. We have 9 total properties in like different parts of pipelines right now, and we're not stopping. So we really have gripped into what we're doing. We did it so much that we got our own dealer's license in manufactured housing. So now we're being able to purchase the manufactured house factory direct. We're buying the land to develop, and we're placing the manufactured house out there to be able to sell to people that can afford it.
I love that, David. Well, brother, thank you for being on the show. It was good to get the full story straight from you, sir. And maybe after you run through this inventory, come back and do another show. Maybe we'll do like an in-depth show on how to find land deals that you can do with manufactured housing. We should do something like anytime. That, man. All right. Well, until next time, this has been Michael Hoang and David Pupo. Until next time.
All righty. Thanks.
Each week on the Get Wealth Show, you hear real conversations with investors, entrepreneurs, and operators who are building real wealth in the real world. If you're ready to start building wealth through real estate, click the link in the description for free resources and tools to help you get started. And if you want more practical, real-world conversations, follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. We'll see you next time on the Get Wealth Show.